Live. It's the Brent Hatley Show with Tommy Greenery. Tommy, what's happening, buddy?
Hey, hi. I'm Ritalin.
How are you? Yeah, you were telling me today that we're going to talk today. So a few things I'm going to talk to you about today. Boom. Supreme Court today struck down the state of New York's concealed carry law. We will we'll look at that, and I'll explain that ruling to you and explain to where I'm coming from, which I guarantee you is not what you're hearing from liberals or conservatives in the media. It's going to be a completely fucking different idea. And I know most people aren't where I am, but most people don't want responsibility. Most people don't want to be responsible for themselves. So we'll talk about that. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about our society and where this all goes.
Okay.
So Tommy and I were talking, and this is one of the things that I'm really, really interested in is let me see.
My ADHD.
Your ADHD. And it's interesting because you said, Tommy, that you weren't diagnosed with it and you didn't figure it out until what age?
I was 50.
So how old are you now?
53, I think.
You're 53, you think. Are you on drugs?
67, yes. Yeah, wait, let me show you how many drugs.
So, and that's the thing is everybody, for years, going back to my days on 98 Rock and rock radio, people have been like, you're on drugs. And I used to say back then, and even to my good friend Tuttle, who was on a ton of medications, he was on Bubba's show, getting your drugs from a drug dealer in a white lab coat does not mean that you're not on drugs.
Right.
Right. Just because the guy that hands you your drugs has an MD by his name and he went to 12 years of school and I get my drugs from a fucking hippie that fucking grows weed, that doesn't mean that I'm on drugs and you're not. And, Tuttle he's changed his opinion since then. But back then on Bubba's show, he used to say to me, but I have a prescription. Like that's made up by man. Prescriptions are made up by man. Doctors' degrees are made up by humans. All of that has nothing to do with the fact that you're still putting a substance into your body. So how did you realize that you have ADHD?
Just from years of depression and anxiety. And so I've been on Zoloft pretty much since it was invented.
You've been on Zoloft? Yeah.
For like 20 some years, and it's helped me a lot. But I still suffered from anxiety. And so I figured out that with the help of a counselor that I may have ADHD. And the medication for ADHD is Ritalin.
Okay, turn your mic up just a little. I don't know. Because I can hear you, but I just want to make sure that the levels are good. And on StreamYard, I'm going to start doing this on OBS. I'm going to figure out how to do this so I can see levels. But I just want to make sure that you're loud enough so everybody's hearing you.
I think that I'm low, and I thought.
Yeah. Is that a Yeti?
Is that now? Do I have it?
Yeah. Hey, do you see at the bottom? There's a settings wheel. No, not on the mic, on your screen.
Yeah.
See, there's a settings wheel. And then you can adjust mic volume on there.
Okay.
Like you click audio. You click audio and it says mic volume. You can turn your mic up there.
It's totally up to the max.
Okay.
But I have a gain thing on.
Yeah, turn your gain up a little bit and get a little bit closer.
I have it one way or the other. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway.
See, we have an asshole in here already. 20 years of broadcasting. Actually, it's been almost 30. So your math sucks, Death Row.
Yeah, I'm the one who's having the technical difficulty.
Yeah, and I wasn't an engineer in radio, you dope. I was an actual broadcaster. We had engineers, at the Stern Show, Scott the engineer. He was Scott the engineer. I wasn't Brent the engineer. Well, you know what? You might say my broadcasting sucks, but guess who doesn't broadcast? You. Guess who never has? You. So you can smile and boom. Yeah, I have a CCNA. I went to St. Petersburg College. I have a CCNA. But what does that have to do with Twitch, you asshole? All right.
I don't have a CCNA.
Yeah, It's a Cisco certified network associate. It just means you know how to fucking put a network together. Well, you're the one that's on here crying, you little fucking bitch. God. All right, I'm flipping over to private chat so I don't see Death Row fucking crying about, oh, your broadcasting sucks. He's never broadcast a day in his fucking life. You can go fuck yourself. How about that? Right. Okay, so now back to the more interesting conversation, which is Tommy. What I was gonna say. So how did you suffered from anxiety?
Yeah,
and depression. So what kind of a doctor did you go to for your diagnosis?
So originally, I've been going ever since I can remember in my childhood. That was the answer that my parents had for me was psychiatry. So, but none of these drugs that now exist were invented back then. And that's been a part of the experience is, I used to smoke weed because that would alleviate my anxiety and my depression.
Absolutely. Because, I had anxiety and depression and I thought it was from the military. But once I went to therapy in 2009 and really dug into my issues, it was from childhood trauma, which will do it as well.
Absolutely. But now I smoke weed still all the time, and I've got this little vape thing here.
Yeah. So the thing is,
but I don't need it like I do the Ritalin.
Yeah. So Ritalin. So here's what I got to understand is, I'm not a doctor, so this is all you heard it on the third stall from the left.
Right.
This is not good. This is not good information. So I want to ask you for good information. I heard that Ritalin was more for kids and Adderall was for adults.
That could be. I don't know why the doctor initially prescribed me Ritalin, but it works. I mean, the first time I took it, I was like, "Oh, this is unbelievable," because it's speed.
Right.
And
if you want speed, America is the country for you. We have speed. Back when we were on 98 Rock, I don't know if you ever remember this supplement they used to sell at GNC called Hydroxy Cuts that had ephedra in them.
Right. And that was back with Bubba.
Yeah. So back with Bubba in 2000, 2001, 2002, we would do hydroxy cuts and just get jacked up on hydroxy cuts. And then at night we were doing this drug. And matter of fact, I talked to this guy that I knew the other night that worked at he was the part owner of this supplement store that was a sponsor of our show. And he goes, "Do you remember Renutrient?" And I was like, "Yes, I remember Renutrient." Renutrient was like a one molecule off GHB. So what we were doing was hydroxy cuts on the show. So if you listen to the Bubba shows on 98 Rock, we are like jacked up and talking like auctioneers. And then at night we would take like a cap of this substance called Renutrient that was one molecule off of GHB to go to sleep. So you go to sleep at 8:45 and you wake up at 4 a.m, like feeling completely healed and refreshed and ready to go. And then you get jacked up on hydroxy cuts and get stiff with people on the radio. It was insane.
It was a lifestyle.
It was a crazy lifestyle. And then on the weekends, like on Fridays, what we would do is we get off the air at 10, we would sleep all day and then go out at 8 or 9 o'clock at night in Tampa. And Bubba would have this big party bus, this woman, there's Julie's Limos here in Tampa. And she would give us a party bus and it would be me and Bubba and all kinds of people and strippers and all this stuff on this bus. And we would go hit the strip clubs, the nightclubs, all this stuff and just throw down. And, I had people on our YouTube channel, and thank you for your hard work on that are commenting on how I'm going to be desensitized. I've been desensitized since like 1999. Yeah, it's like you live the life that I've lived in this place in Tampa. Tampa, as just living here and being part of the party scene, will desensitize you. Hanging out with Bubba the Love Sponge in his heyday, 24/7, and that's back. When I wasn't even on Bubba's show. I was on every now and then. I was on the show in the studio next to his with a guy named Ron Diaz, and it would be Bubba and then Calta and all these, and this guy named Rob that he went by Guido on the air, and Pete the Sports Geek, and Bubba had this club, Bubba's Beach Club. And then when the club would close down at 3 a.m., we would have a 3 a.m., what we call the 3 a.m. Shady Show. And we would have chicks up there, and we'd be there till 5, 6 in the morning with nude chicks. Like, I've been desensitized since I was very young. So that's not even a thing.
Before the internet.
Before, well, I mean, that we had the internet barely. Like, we had like Yahoo, and you had a Prodigy account, stuff like that. Like, we had the internet, but barely. We were still like, when I first met Bubba, we were still editing tape with a grease pen and a razor. Like, we were actually cutting tape, and then we got these Odyssey huge, like they were $14,000 each. These big machines that we would do. We would edit on the screen, and now you're all the way up to these programs like Adobe Audition and Pro Tools, where you can do
everybody's doing it themselves.
You can do anything with audio, but back then you had to actually take a reel and go into the production room, and it took a long time. So everybody, and there was only 2 production rooms. So you've got to produce commercials, you got to produce stuff for 2 morning shows, and you've got to produce promos for the radio station. Everybody was jacked up on speed. Everybody was jacked up on hydroxy cuts, and then using Renutrient to go to sleep at night. And this whole thing, this whole idea of this whole nonsense, horseshit idea about the war on drugs in this country is ridiculous. Everybody in this country is on one drug or another. They're high on something or another. And it's completely insane. And people buy into this nonsense because they need to make themselves feel better. Oh, I'm not on drugs, as they go to the bar and do shots until they pass out. Like Mark Burns. I'm not on drugs, but I'm going to do 14 shots of Jameson until I fall on my face, and my girlfriend has to drag me to the bathroom. That's drugs. Alcohol's a drug.
Says that? Mark Burns says that he's not on drugs.
But he would make that point to you that he's not on drugs. Like, he's a government.
I can't believe that.
Yeah, he's a government employee, so he can't smoke weed. I understand. He gets tested. He can't smoke weed. He can't do any of the quote unquote illicit drugs. But if he had a prescription,
federal.
What's that?
Federal government employee?
No. He works for Jersey City. He is an animal control, and what he does is he's got an important job. Like, he does help prosecute people for animal abuse, which is it's a beautiful thing. But he can't smoke weed, because how that would affect him prosecuting people for abusing animals, I have no idea. But
oh my God, it's crazy.
But he but he can drink as much as he wants, because his job, they were like, yeah, well, drinking's legal. Right. So some jackass in Washington, D.C., a bunch of them, in fact, in suits and ties that are corrupt, that enable this corrupt system that we live in, have decided that, alcohol's legal, so therefore you can do it. Cigarettes are legal, therefore you can do that. Coffee, take people's caffeine away from them. Have you been in any of the 9 million Starbucks that are in this country in the morning when people are going to work? There's people in there all hours of the day getting their speed fix. So speed, if you want speed, this is the country for you, because everybody is jacked up on speed. And then they use the downers from everything from alcohol to Klonopins to Xanax to weed to Ambien to Lunesta or whatever the fuck they're taking. All this stuff to get themselves to sleep at night. It's a pill to put you down, a pill to get you up. We live in it, and it's all for huge profits for families like the Sacklers and big pharma and drug companies. And all these people think that Western medicine and politicians and all this shit care about you. They don't care about you one bit, and they never will. They never will. And come to think of it, your own neighbors don't care about you. You think they do? They don't care about you. Nobody cares about what happens to you. People say to veterans, thank you for their service. Try to get an appointment at the VA. Being a veteran, try to get an appointment for anything at the VA. Good luck. People don't really care about veterans. Thank you for your service is something that it's a throwaway line that people just say. It doesn't mean anything. Support the blue, like people support the police. Oh, well, we support the blue. And then on January 6th, the very same people that would say that with the I support the police flag with the sticker on their car and waving the I support the police flag around, you see on video on January 6th, one of those guys taking an American flag pole and beating a police officer with it. People are full of crap. This country is off the rails, and the wheels are off. And that's the underlying problem here. There is an underlying issue here. And it's mental illness. And I mean, broadly speaking, not specifically speaking, broadly speaking, as a group, people in these big groups, these big societies are horrible. They are terrible. And, you and I, on an individual, I have to talk to you quite a bit about the YouTube channel and we exchange some ideas. People on an individual level, like you and I, great, fantastic. With my wife or with my friends, and I'm sure with your wife, she's great. She plays fantasy football with us on an individual level. That's the thing. But soon as people start to get into these big groups and get into this thing called groupthink is an MFer. It is insane. And then that's where the Overton window and this magical thinking that religion has trained people to believe things that are completely ludicrous and impossible. That comes from religion. Religion trains your mind for that. And then you start believing that stuff. And then you start, and one of the main people is this, I'll say it, and this isn't even disparaging. I'm not saying anything bad because a lot of people are this way. One of the main people that enforces these societal norms is Howard. Listen to him. He gets very upset when you do things that are outside the societal norm. Look what Katelyn and I went in there to talk about ethical non-monogamy. We're talking about non-monogamy that your wife and you agree upon and that you bond over and that you grow over. Those people lost their shit. They lost their shit because it's outside of what they think is okay.
Yeah.
But what they think is okay is nuts. And it's like the time I went and told Howard, listen, you've got anxiety and depression. Psilocybin mushrooms would help you with that. His first response was weird, which was like telling me it's a woman's drug, which is okay. Is that a bad thing? Yeah, that's what he said. It's a woman's drug, Brent. That's what he says. And then Gary on the wrap-up show is like, I think that he should do what Jason does. And I love Jason. Jason is awesome. Those of you who don't know Jason Kaplan, he's doing a bit on the air. For any of you who don't understand what's going on and the entertainment that's going on there, Jason is doing a bit. He is one of the most caring and compassionate people I've ever met in my life. And he is a really good dude. Used to go play poker at his house the first Friday of every month. He used to have these amazing parties at his house. He's one of the nicest, most caring people in the world. But on the air, he's going to throw you under the bus. But he even will tell you off the air, he's not going to do it about anything that's going to cause you any real issues. It's just we're doing a radio show. It's all that stuff. But Gary says you need to do. I think Howard needs to do what Jason Kaplan does and take Lexapro. I think Brent's idea of him taking mushrooms is a horrible idea. So there was I can't remember which one, but there was a rock guy that was on the show, the wrap up show that day, and I was walking him to the elevator with Steve Brandano, and I was like, "This is where we are in America, where something that grows in the ground is a bad idea, but chemicals made in a lab that have half the commercial is side effects. That's the good idea." That's how insane we are at this point in America. That's where our society is in America. So has the Ritalin helped you?
Yeah. Well, I can't decide if it must be helping with the ADHD.
Right.
But the way I see it is I'm getting high every day. And, I used to drink coffee all the time. And I still do have caffeine, but it barely affects me compared to the Ritalin. Right,
because the Ritalin, thank you. Speaking of coffee, here we go. I got some. That's what I'm.
I got a bang drink here.
I'm jacked up on French roast.
Nice. I'm jacked up on bang drinks.
Javelia French roast is amazing. But that is the insane thing. But at least, you know what? I give you credit for this, Tommy. At least what you're saying here, it's kind of dark, but at least what you're saying here, this is non-magical thinking. You understand that you're getting high every day. You understand it.
Yeah.
So it's getting high. It's, we all are. I absolutely.
Right.
And what I've learned through, massive amounts of, and I'm advocating this as a political position, psilocybin, which should be legal. But there's not huge profit margins for corporations to get their cut in making psilocybin legal. Psilocybin, you can grow it in your closet hydroponically. You can grow the fungi. You can make, you can get the spores and make psilocybin mushrooms to do almost anything that you want. It remaps your brain. So Wednesday night, I have a couple of beers on Miserable Men. And then, Friday nights here, we do a party show, Katelyn and I, and I'll have some beers here, but it like 2 or 3, and I lose my taste for it. Like it has remapped and rewired my brain to lose the taste for alcohol. Completely accidental. I wasn't trying to do that. I will cop to it. Like I enjoyed drinking beer. Like I have lost the enjoyment of drinking beer. I have to drink super light beer at this point. Bush Light, which I was drinking before as a joke, but like that's about what I can drink because it's so watered down.
Before Ritalin, I would also drink to alleviate the anxiety. And depression.
Yeah.
And
what do you think was the underlying cause of your anxiety and depression? And I am going to get to this.
Childhood trauma for sure.
Yeah, and childhood. So here's one thing that Howard gets right, and let's just say this: he does a lot for underprivileged kids with getting TM, which is transcendental meditation, which helps with childhood trauma. And it helped Howard with his trauma, transcendental meditation. He is right. Like that is a state of consciousness to get yourself to help with trauma. But you know what the shortcut is? Psilocybin gets you there way faster than transcendental meditation does. Psilocybin remaps and reconnects. And how old are you, Tommy? Can I ask? I mean, I know you're not.
Yeah, you asked me before earlier, and I wasn't
53.
Sure.
53. Yeah.
67 was
53.
the year I was born. Anyone in chat?
So I was born in 71. I was born, but the thing is all of us as we get older, the neurons they disconnect, they wear out in your brain. Like that's what happens as you get older. Psilocybin reconnects all of that. It reconnects all of that. It repairs all of that. And for those of us that have had concussions, have you ever had a concussion?
Yes. Later in life.
Yeah.
I was at a reggae show, and
a reggae show.
I must have. The only thing in hindsight is that I was dehydrated because I wasn't drinking, and I smoked a ton of weed, and I wasn't smoking weed at that time.
Gotcha.
Like, regularly, which makes a big difference. And I passed out while dancing, and my head hit the concrete, and this scar up here, I was out cold and bleeding all over the place.
So what that is you're exactly right. Dehydration leads to this thing called vasovagal syncope, which is what I have. If I get overly dehydrated and you add any substance to it, weed or whatever that dehydrates you, and you're in the heat in the sun like that, you can pass out. So the last time it happened to me, we talked about it on the Stern Show, and we had been
right. You do we had been problem.
Right. So the first time it happened to me, I didn't know I had this problem. So I'd eaten edibles, and I went to a Florida Gator game. So Howard
said that you should stop smoking weed.
Yeah, Howard's not a doctor at all.
Right.
And the ones he's listens to, I question, except for Dr. Sarno. But I'd gone to a Florida Gator game, and it's in September. It's very hot at the Swamp in September. For those of you who don't know, the University of Florida's football stadium sits down into the ground. So when you walk up to it, like you walk in at the second and third level of the stadium, you have to walk down into your seats. It sits down in the ground. There is no wind in the swamp. They call it the swamp. There is no wind in the swamp down there at the field level because it sits down in the ground.
Wow.
So it is super hot there in September, and they pack it in. It's 95,000 people. And one of my best friends in high school, Dante Fowler, his son, Dante Fowler Jr., was having his first game against Bowling Green, his first college game. I had talked with his dad. He was going to go to Florida State, and he, the last minute, flipped to Florida. I was really excited for him to see his first game as a Florida Gator. I went to all of his games that year, even the Sugar Bowl that year in New Orleans. And that first game, we'd gone to the game. We'd been out in the sun all day long. I wasn't drinking water. I had eaten. We had this Bubba fan from San Francisco. His name is Buddha, and Buddha would send these like, it looked like candy, but like shattered candy that was green and red, like you get at Christmas time, like that hard candy, you can break off pieces of it. So you couldn't measure that good how much of a edible that you were taking.
Right.
So I took that before the game. I went to the Florida Bowling Green game. It was hot out there. So Katelyn and I go to dinner after, and I was sitting at the dinner table, like saying, you know what, I don't feel great at all. And I had a drink at dinner, a mixed drink at dinner, not water, no water all day. I had a mixed drink at dinner, and I was like, you know, I'm starting to feel like really bad. And we were in the restaurant that was right next to the hotel that we're staying at. So she said, you know what, I'll pay for dinner. You go up to the room, and I'll be up there in 1 second. So I walked out of the restaurant and make a left, and boom, my chin hit the curb. Like I was out. Chin hit the curb. Boom. Blood everywhere. Broke my jaw. All this stuff. And, you know, it's out on University Avenue at the University of Florida. Everybody's partying after the opening game. So people think that I'm drunk, smashed, and I passed out. But that's not what happened at all. I had just had my first drink. You can now, as we sit here today, drink beers inside the University of Florida Stadium, but back then you could not. There was no alcohol in there at all. People would bring flasks in their pants and shit like that.
Right, of course. That's the way you do it with the flask.
I didn't that day. I wasn't drinking that day. I was going to have dinner, and then I was going to go meet the Fowlers with Dante Jr. To have dinner, and to meet them out and just congratulate him on his first game as a Gator. He played a great game. It was awesome. But I end up at Shands Hospital, the best hospital in the Southeast at the University of Florida. And they had to like wire my jaw shut. So,
how long did you have that for?
6 weeks. My jaw was wired shut. 6 weeks, and I have a titanium plate in my chin from that day. That was insane. That 6 weeks was torture because you could only. I had to get like Campbell's tomato soup and suck it through a straw. Right. And I would have to go to like this smoothie place, and I get me a PB&J smoothie. Like that's all I was. I lost like 20 pounds in 6 weeks with barely even exercising. It came right off because there was no solid food at all. My father, who's now my father-in-law, tried to make me. He took fresh fish and like some broth and put it in a blender and tried to blend it up like fine enough to where I could like suck it through a straw. I couldn't even do that. Like it was, they wired my jaw tight shut. And Bubba thought it was hilarious. So if you go back and listen to that, you can hear me on the air talking about with my jaw wired shut. So I'm glad that you're I'm glad. What's that?
I was saying, speaking of Bubba, he was talking on a show recently about his use of psilocybin and how he uses it daily or will do it during the show. Or
he was saying that, huh? Well, so he showed me.
Yeah, it was the video you showed me of him talking for 2 hours.
Oh yeah. That was on the podcast he was on. Yeah,
part of that.
When I was there for the Bubba Army party, he showed me. He was like, people say I should do 1 gram to start, and I was like, take it down to about 0.5 gram to start, because you don't want, just like with weed, if somebody does not smoke weed, 1 hit,
right?
That's it. That's all they get. They get
have to make
1 hit.
They inhale too.
And if it's a chick, I'll give her a shotgun, so it's not so potent.
So they don't have a panic attack.
And they enjoy themselves. You start people slow. So I was like, no, take it down to about 1/2. So I'm glad that it's working for him. And I think it'll do wonders for him as a human being, because Bubba deep down is a good dude. He's off the rails, man. He's as Howard said when he met him, he's shot out of a cannon. He's completely shot out of a cannon all the time. But I think the psilocybin will help him redirect that. Yeah. So in talking more about our society where the wheels are completely off, the Supreme Court today, in a 6-3 ruling, struck down New York State's Sullivan Act, which has been a law since, I think, 1913, that you can't carry a concealed weapon in the state of New York outside of your house unless you can show a need for it. So if you're a celebrity, your security guards, and for example, Rosie O'Donnell, who is very anti-gun, her security carries firearms. I find that to be very hypocritical, and they make the determination in the state of New York, if you apply to have a concealed carry They make the determination the government makes the determination if you need to protect yourself or not. And usually if you're a celebrity or a politician or an athlete or somebody that's quote unquote important, which none of us are more important than the other person. It's just, we all do what we do. Then you get the permit. But if you're a regular citizen, then you don't. And the two guys that sued to get this law overturned in their lawsuit. So I made a point today to read their complaint and read what their attorney argued to the Supreme Court. They're saying that due to the 14th Amendment, because we all have the Second Amendment right, but they say due to the 14th Amendment, the way that the gun law in New York is applied, it's not applied equally to everybody. So if you don't know what the 14th Amendment is, the 14th Amendment came about after the end of the Civil War. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment come after the end of the Civil War. And the 14th Amendment has a couple of things in it. One of them is equal protection under the law, meaning you have to apply the law equally to everybody, which is why gay marriage is legal today. Gay marriage is legal today because the 14th Amendment. You can't say straight people can get married, but gay people can't. You've got to apply all laws equally to everybody. That was put in place. So you couldn't make laws for some for white people and some for black people, some for white people and some for Hispanic people, some for white people, some for Asians. Like, you can't make laws like that. That's what's in the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment is also, if you're born in the United States, you're automatically a citizen. That is a result of slavery, came as a result of the end of the Civil War and slavery. And because of that, every law, every rule, every constitutional amendment has unintended consequences. And the unintended consequences, sometimes the Supreme Court has to rule. So it was 6-3. The Supreme Court absolutely ruled correctly on this. You cannot say, if you're a celebrity or a politician or somebody that we deem important in society, then you can carry a gun. But Tommy Greenery, you're not. So therefore, you can't carry a gun. Completely unconstitutional. 14th and Second Amendment grounds, it is a violation. So the Supreme Court, while the media is getting it kind of wrong, saying that they struck it down, they did not strike it down. What they did was they sent it back to the Second District Court of Appeals to reconsider their ruling, 6-3. So it doesn't affect anything quite yet. The mayor of New York had a press conference to clear that up, say, we're not changing anything. If you're carrying a gun in violation of these laws, I'm still arresting you. So everybody in New York, don't run around carrying a gun, because the state of New York punishes very, very harshly people that have guns. Like, you remember the wide receiver Plaxico Burress, when he was on the New York Giants, was in a nightclub.
Right?
He shot himself in the leg. Now, to me, that's punishment enough. You can't handle a firearm enough that you shoot yourself in the leg. People were like, Plaxico Burress should go to jail and this and that. I'm like, why? For what? Who did he hurt by? But other than himself? Well, he could have hurt somebody, but you can't go to jail, and you shouldn't go to jail for could-haves. Could-haves don't count. You should actually have to do something to go to jail. And he hurt himself. And I thought that him getting shot in the leg was plenty of punishment for him. But he still did 2 years in prison, which is pretty stiff in the state of New York. And there were some people in the state of New York when we were there that, people, there was a guy that somebody broke into his house. His wife and kid was in there, and he shot the guy in his house, and he still got arrested, because you have to have a permit to have it at your house. You have to have a permit to conceal guns. The gun laws in New York are ridiculous. I don't know how they got around the Heller decision. If you don't know what that is, Heller says that the city of Washington, D.C. cannot keep you from having a handgun. And I don't know how the state or the city of New York gets around that either. But the Supreme Court ruled today that it is a 14th and Second Amendment violation, the Sullivan Act in New York. And everybody's like, this is going to lead to more violence, and that's going to lead to more violence. Now, I will stipulate there are some things that are, if the Constitution permitted it, a good idea. Background checks, like a universal background check for mental health issues, keeping guns from felons, and maybe raising the age to own a firearm to 21. But what I don't think that you could, constitutionally, I don't know how you resolve that. At 18 years old, I can sign a contract. I can join the military. I can go over to the Middle East and get myself killed in Iraq or Afghanistan or wherever country that we decided to send our military to. At 18 years old, you can go over there and do that. But I don't understand how you can't drink. You can't. There's a lot of things you can't do before you're 21 years old. So if let me say this, in a perfect world, and again, I like to deal with the world we live in, not the one we'd like to be, but in a perfect world, if the Constitution permitted it, I kind of think that 18 to 28, when you're 18, 19, and 20, that should be a period of in between being a child and an adult, because the moment you turn 18, that's just your birthday. Like, your brain doesn't develop all the way to an adult. And in males, it's all the way to 25 years old before our brains are fully developed.
Mm-hmm.
We make really, all of us guys that are older remember when we were that age, we made horrible decisions. We were jackasses. It was terrible. I wish that we could have that period of 18 to 20 where you do get a little more freedom, but you're not completely an adult yet. I wish the complete age of majority in this country was 21 at the very least. And when it comes to any of our activities that we are into with consensual adults, like, we don't hang out with, party with, nothing with anybody that's under 21, even though it's legal. Anybody that's under 21 is a no, 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 and a no again, and no one more time. No, got to be over 21 to even hang out with us. And even then, I like 25 being really more my cutoff, because people have had time to mature and experience life and have to pay the rent, and they've just had to work more parts of their brain, and they've had time to really experience life and work by the time you're 25. And with guys, you're fully developed by the time you're 25. But again, if the Constitution permitted that, I would love for the age of majority in this country to be 21. I think that is actually common sense and reasonable, but there are laws, there are rules, there is the Constitution, and the Constitution doesn't particularly allow, and I'm thankful that we have the Constitution to not allow the government to do whatever you want. Now, on the macro point, there's two. Number one is, it is a basic human right. It's nice that the Constitution protects it, but the Constitution does not grant you the right to protect yourself. That is a basic human right. Protecting yourself and protecting your family is a basic human right. It always has been. It's inalienable. You're born with it. The fact that we have had two people, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, that wrote the Bill of Rights and thought of, hey, we need to protect these rights. Well, fantastic. The Constitution is there to protect your rights, but it's also there to tell the government what they're limited in what they can do. Because your politicians are bought and sold. Politics is an illusion of choice. They're never going to do anything ever that helps you. No politician has ever solved any of your problems. Only technicians have solved your problems. You know who makes your refrigerator that keeps your food cold, and your microwave, and what we're on right now to broadcast, and your headphones so you can listen to music, and your record player? Those are technicians that do that for you. Politicians couldn't do it if their life depended on it. They're bloodsuckers. They're vampires. They're corrupt. They're horrific people. They're horrific people that speak in generalities and divide people so they can get their little scrap of money from the about 400 people that run this world. And if you think I'm full of shit, go read The Creature from Jekyll Island by Griffin. The Creature from Jekyll Island. This whole system that we're living in was set up by bankers, by international bankers under this president by the name of Woodrow Wilson, which is the worst president we've ever had. He set up the IRS, he set up the Federal Reserve, and it was to control wages, because bankers figured out that they can control you if you can create money through this thing called a fractional reserve system. You know what that is, Tommy?
Tell me.
So fractional reserve banking is this. Like, say I had the Brent Hatley Bank, right? And I had $100 in cash in my vault. Now, on the computer screen in fractional reserve banking, I can create $900 more out of that $100. So now, with that $100 in my bank, I can lend out $900. That's what we do. It's called a fiat currency. We create money out of thin air. So when we were the colonies, things like tobacco were money, and whiskey, and milk, and livestock, and actual products, and gold, things that had some value to them. Actual commodities was what we traded.
Yeah.
And even in Massachusetts, while they were still one of the colonies, they came up with a state of Massachusetts or colony of Massachusetts central bank, and they had this fiat currency, and it ruined the economy to the point that the King of England said, "You can't print this currency anymore. You're ruining the whole deal." This system was set up. This Federal Reserve System, the IRS, and all this is set up to control wages. And they figured out the international bankers they're not patriots. They don't care about any number of countries. JP Morgan was a guy that was of English descent from America. His dad had this company in England. The Bank of England was in business with them. Then they set up the Federal Reserve. So then you had the Bank of England, Bank of France, the head of the Federal Reserve, and the head of the Bank of Germany. They set up this whole system of creating money out of thin air that they can control. They don't care about this country. They don't care about you. They don't care about anything. It's their system that they control so they could loot our resources, just like we do to other countries. We started with the Monroe Doctrine, looting other countries' resources and using this system, this currency system. We went into countries like Nicaragua between World War I and World War II, and we took their resources, which is bananas. And as funny as that sounds, like we took their bananas, that's how they made their money, is the exportation of these bananas, right? So we went in there, we sent the Marines in there between World War I and World War II. They go into Nicaragua, and we take their natural resources of bananas for this company called the United Fruit Company. We went in and fought this guy called Ernesto Sandino. And still to this day in Nicaragua, the rebels are the Sandinistas after Ernesto Sandino. And we sent the Marines down there to take their natural resources for the United Fruit Company. And the United Fruit Company, you know what that company is known as today, as we sit here today? Chiquita Banana. Really? So as funny as that is, we do the same thing with oil. And there's a great book. It's called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And here's how our whole thing works. This is what we do. This is what we do here. You and I don't do it. The people at the top. And I'm not even talking about the politicians. They're owned. Like I tweeted out on Twitter today, there was an ad for Marco Rubio during the Stanley Cup last night. So I watched this whole ad for Marco Rubio. I was like, that's all kind of a weird ad. And then at the end, on the last frame at the bottom, it says paid for by the Bankers Association of America, sponsored by the Florida Bankers Association.
Of course.
I'm like, yep, it's right here in plain sight during the Stanley Cup. Who owns Marco Rubio? It's right there on the screen for you, and nobody pays attention because you're worried about nonsense like, teaching critical race theory or gun control or all this nonsense that gets a race and religion and all this stuff that gets us fighting with each other. They need that. They need you busy with nonsense so they can rob you and they can take our resources. Look at the beautiful resources that we have here in North America that have been robbed and raped and pillaged by corporations and bankers. And none of it benefits you, not one bit of it. And I'm sick of it. It is just ridiculous. And I have no stake in the outcome of the society. I don't care about any of that. Care about this world or this society. None of it's going to matter. This earth has been here 4.5 billion years. It's going to go on a long time after humans are gone. So that doesn't matter. But what does matter is the ephemeral, short time that you have on this MFN earth. This is for you to enjoy your life. And you're spending your time on Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg sucking your life out of you. You're spending your time on Twitter. I'm guilty of that too. Thanks, Jack Dorsey. He just admitted the other day, yeah, there's a problem with this algorithm, but yeah, kind of my bad. Yeah, thanks, buddy. Thanks for that. Thanks. Good job. Great fucking job. It's like Eisenhower. When he leaves, everybody's like, oh, his military industrial complex speech when he's leaving the presidency. Yeah, you set that up. You were a general. Oh, watch out for the military industrial complex that I set up. We put people secondary to profit and possessions. It is a sick society. Greed is all people care about. Nobody cares about anything else. They care about how high can I stack my money. You can't take it with you. You're not going to heaven. And if you did let's say that Jesus did exist and there was a heaven, the gold, he's already got the gold up there. You're not taking anything with you anyway. So what are you holding on to your money for? What are you clutching on to this society for? Why are you going to that cubicle every day to work the first 3 months to give your money to the government so they can go bomb people in poor countries? It is insane, the magical thinking in this country. It is insane. And you're worried about a Supreme Court ruling that people can actually protect themselves in New York City. You know what's going on in New York City? We just showed on Miserable Men a guy taking a bag of feces and smashing it in somebody's face in the subway. Of course, people are going to want to protect themselves. It's out of control. And I respect the police. The police have a hard job. We're asking them to do a lot of stuff. But they can't be there at every minute and every second. That was my whole, everybody, me explain jokes to people. When I was on the air talking about a citizen's arrest, that was my whole point, is the police can't be there. When seconds count, the police are only minutes away. So of course you have the right to protect yourself, and of course you should protect yourself. But my second point on this gun thing is, we're in a sick society. And why? Do you ever ask yourself, is this political argument, does anybody ever ask themselves or ask each other, why would these teenage males want to pick up a gun and kill and hurt people? Why? It's because they're being raised completely devoid of empathy. They're being raised in a society with this groupthink, this idea that you're justified in your anger if somebody, and violence, somebody has a different opinion than you. They're raised in the society that is just completely screwed. And also, there is a bit of male bashing going on in society, which is causing underdeveloped male brains to be angry. And they're picking up guns. And if the horse is out of the barn, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. There's millions of guns on the streets of America, and anybody that wants a gun can get one. When I was in high school, if I would have wanted a gun, I could have gotten one. I got offered to buy a gun when I was in high school. And one of my friends said, where are you going to carry it? I was like, oh, back here in my belt. And he's like, yeah, you're going to blow another crack in your ass. Is what's going to happen. So I decided against that. I was trained to handle a firearm in the military, but I don't carry them with me on the streets. I don't want to escalate into violence, but it takes a while as a male to get there, in the way that we handle males in this society, in the way that things get done in the society, with the education of men. What happens with them? It is sick and twisted. We put priority. We glorify and praise violence while we demonize sex. That is a sick society. That is an insane society. You prioritize violence and killing. We spend $750 billion roughly on our military every single year. And it's supposed to be the Department of Defense, not the Department of Offense. But we spend that money to buy high-tech weapons from homegrown and international arms dealers so we can go bomb the shit out of poor people. Think how immoral that is. That's where your tax money goes. To doing that. We're borrowing money from China to go kill people. Tomorrow I'm taping a show on NPR about veterans and PTSD and suicide and how these veterans that have come home from Iraq and Afghanistan from 2, 3, 4, 5 tours, we're getting them no help, no mental health treatment, none. But you know what? There's no money in answering that problem. There's no Zuckerberg that's going to get rich. There's no big corporation like GE that's going to get rich. JP Morgan Chase Wells Fargo isn't going to get rich by helping veterans with their PTSD and their homelessness and the help that they need in their life. Nobody's going to pay you a damn dime for that. And no billionaire is going to get rich off of it. So that problem is never going to get fixed. And I'm going to tell them that on NPR tomorrow because people really don't give a shit. Thank you for your service. Oh, great. Wonderful. Yeah, that and fucking a few dollars at Publix will get me my my Javelia coffee. Great. Wonderful. We need, and not just for veterans, there are children that grow up in either abusive homes, they grow up in neighborhoods that are extremely violent, in cities that are extremely violent. They have post-traumatic stress disorder and they need help. But there is no money in that. There is no billionaire that's going to get rich from that. We have a healthcare system with a profit motive. There is a profit motive for our healthcare system. We have the most expensive and least effective healthcare in the whole world, just about, in the first world, nonetheless, or the Western rich countries. Go to Japan. There's a hospital and a pharmacy in every neighborhood, and they have an insurance company system there where you pay into an insurance system, but it's not for profit. So if the insurance company has money left over, it either goes back to you, you get a return check, or what they do is they give you more benefits to see more doctors and get more care. In this country, whether you see a doctor or not is based on how much of this fractional reserve fake currency that you have. These numbers on the computer screen, because now our money supply, only 3% of it is actually cash. The rest of it is numbers on a computer screen. And you believe in that like you believe in Jesus. They're numbers on a screen. These bankers, they do deals and pay themselves commission. That'd be like you and I writing on a napkin. Here's $1 billion to you and $1 billion to you. And now let's pay ourselves commission on the computer screen for it and create this money out of thin air. I mean, that's oversimplifying it, but that's pretty much what's going on. And remember the crash in 2008? That was this thing called credit default swaps. You know what that scheme was? So what they did was they went and preyed on lower middle class and poor people. They gave them home loans that they couldn't afford. A friend of mine was actually writing loans, and he was writing down employment verification. He was writing down baseball players' names: Pete Rose, Ted Williams. He was seeing what he could get through on the loan application, and every application was getting approved. And what they did was they bundled those loans, and they went to investors and said, these are A+ rated investments. They sold it like insurance it's called a credit default swap. And then when the housing bubble burst in 2008 and the whole economy crashed, that's what did it. Yes, people shouldn't have taken out those loans. B, they shouldn't have been even offered those loans. But the thing that compounded the problem was packaging those loans into credit default swaps that you invest in, and that made the whole economy fucking collapse on itself. These are the types of people. We have bankers and corporations running our society. And just like it was in feudal England or feudal France before the French Revolution and all this stuff, your religion, whatever that religion may be, is right there to help the corporations keep you in line. Like Lamb of God says, you've got the commercial gods to keep you in line. So hang your golden mirror on your wall and tell yourself that it means something. Because it only means something because you believe it means something. It means nothing. None of this means anything. Nothing, nothing, nothing. The human race, the wheels are off. Completely off. The Earth is going to go on. We'll probably go extinct, and there'll be other life forms that evolve and come up in millions of years, just like we did after the large mammals, just like the large mammals did after the dinosaurs, and so on and so on. That's going to go on. So none of this matters. So why do you care? Why do you care? You're spending your life online trolling people? That's what you care about? That's what you think makes you such an amazing person? It's garbage. You're garbage. Evolution would have weeded you out without all of this stuff, without all of this technology. Like, Robin was kind of shocked when I said this on the air one time, but then it sunk in because she's really, 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 really smart. And it sunk in a few seconds. When I said,
and she's a narcissist.
according to Dr. Drew, who's my friend. I like them both, but I don't think Robin. I think Robin could maybe be full of herself. Definitely, I don't think she's a narcissist. I think
Interesting.
I think she's got a ton of empathy. She really does. One of the sweetest people I've ever been around. And I will tell you this: when I said this to her, technology has neutralized evolution and natural selection. And then when a virus comes along, because viruses are 30% of the driver of human evolution. So for our species to continue, which our species is wiping out the rest of mammal life on this planet, and we're overfishing the oceans on top of that. For our species to continue, you need evolution and natural selection. The bad parts or the unhealthy parts or the parts that aren't workable get weeded out as you continue on down the line, as more people are born in your family or whatever, like anything like that happens. But technology now, we can keep the sick and anybody that's ill or infirm, we can keep you alive for a long time. I mean, people these days are living longer than ever. There's over 10,000 people. Talk about a place where people live a long time. Japan. There's over 10,000 people over 100 years old in Japan.
So COVID weeded out.
But it really did. So
survival of the fittest, sort of, because
kind of.
they're not
getting. But it didn't. It didn't
vaccinated.
though. It didn't. See, that's part of it. You're right, Tommy. That's part of it. Part of it is, do you have the wherewithal to use the technology available to you? So if you decide, it's not. Let's be correct about it. It's not a vaccination. It's a shot. It's a shot. A shot helps you. So this shot helps you not go to the hospital and not die. It doesn't stop you from getting it, and it doesn't stop you from spreading it, but it does help you from not dying. So that's technology available to you to keep you alive. Mm-hmm. There's therapeutics that are available to keep you alive. I decided to use all of it. I've gotten shots. I've used therapeutics when I got really sick. That's available to you. If you choose not to do so and die, that's evolution. And I'm sorry, and I'm not even saying this as a pejorative. There's lots of reasons that people could be overweight. But the fact is, evolution doesn't care why you're overweight. If you're overweight and you get sick, whether it's COVID or a heart attack or a stroke or whatever it may be, having weight on you, especially as a man, as you get older, having too much weight on you and putting too much stress on your heart will kill you. COVID might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. That cheeseburger might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. The cocaine might be the straw that breaks the camel's back. But when you have weight on you, you could die.
Or you go to Dr. Now.
What's that?
Dr. Now.
Yeah. Doctor, why are you so heavy?
Why you eat so much?
Why you eat so much? But there's lots of reasons for that. It's the same reason. It's when you read this book by this author named Johann Hari, Chasing the Scream. It's about the war on drugs, and it's about addiction more broadly speaking, because I don't think it's just drugs. There's people that are addicted to food. I don't buy into sex addiction. That is a biological function that you need. It's like saying, I'm addicted to breathing. Okay. But there's people that are addicted to food, religion, all kinds of things. But addiction, there's 10% of people, if you take all the addicts, 10% of them are really physically addicted, and it's a chemical addiction, and it's going to be very hard for them. 90% of people were abused as children. They are depressed about their marriage. They are depressed about their job. They're depressed because they're on Facebook comparing themselves to other morons that are putting pictures up of themselves that don't even reflect their life. They reflect what they want to show you. You don't know what's going on in these people's lives. These people are showing you all these pictures of this happy family. Then all of a sudden you're like, oh, they got divorced? Oh, they look so happy on Facebook. Yeah. That's an insane thought. Like, you don't know what's going on in these people's lives. You don't know what's going on in anybody's relationship. Only they know what's going on in their relationship. It's nuts. We have got to stop with the magical thinking. We have got to stop with this idea that he who has the most toys wins. Who came up with that? Who cares? Experiences are far more important and far greater and a better thing than possessions or money. Mm-hmm. So I don't have I used to have a house full of I look back now, I had a house full of nonsense. I mean, just nonsense, just garbage. And my wife, Katelyn, she's the one that convinced me, like, throw stuff away. Like, what's your attachment to this stuff? It was kind of weird. Like, Bubba used to call me a hoarder, and of course I wasn't that bad, but I was like, well, what if I need that one day? I'm not going to need it.
I'm that way too.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be that way. I used to be that way. I used to really be that way, and my wife really convinced me that it was a really weird way of thinking. And now I've got my Spotify, and I've got actual, record albums, because music is very important to me. So, okay, so that means something to me. You ask me, what does that mean? Music brings me a ton of joy. And especially going to see musicians and artists do it live, it really invigorates me, and I get a lot of engagement and excitement out of that.
And you like vinyl, like Baba Booey?
Yeah, I love vinyl, because there's stuff on vinyl. There's things that you can hear, because I have an analog system. See, a lot of people get vinyl and then they Bluetooth it to their speaker. Well, as soon as you Bluetooth it over the air, it takes out the high and the low end and all this stuff. The whole reason you're listening to vinyl. So I have an analog system set up. It's amazing. And when, like, you listen to Tool, and you listen to, like, I have some old original Judas Priest albums I listen to on there, and AC/DC, and you listen to these records on vinyl with that bandwidth where you can hear everything. It's incredible. So music means something to me. Video games. A lot of people like to get down on video games. Video games, a lot of veterans, especially at Walter Reed and Bethesda Navy Hospital, they use video games to treat their PTSD. They use it to reconnect their hand-eye coordination and therapy and all kinds of stuff. Video games can be good for you. They really can. And, when I get in and play MLB, like, I focus my mind. I focus my mind into playing the game, because you got to play it like it's a baseball game. And when I play Madden, and it's really football strategy, and you can block everything out and focus just on that. So I think video games are good. So my wife got me a PS5 for my birthday just recently. Amazing. All great stuff.
You're going to start streaming.
I'm going to start streaming some of my video games. And people are like, oh, he's going to stream video games. Great. Well, don't watch it. I don't care. I don't care if there's 3 of you here or 3,000 here. I don't care. I'm here for me. And if you want to be here, be here. I'm here for me, and you're here for me. So take that. To quote George Carlin. But we're going to get on and stream some video games and talk some shit, playing some games. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So what's the point in all this? Let's find one. The point in all this is.
Well, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You said earlier you were talking about politicians, but you also were referring to the law that the Supreme Court made a correct decision.
Yeah.
But when you look at how the decision and how it was 6-3, they didn't vote based on the law. It was political. So it's really not a question. It's just stating the irony.
Well, when you read the opinion of the court, which was written by Clarence Thomas, and I didn't read the whole opinion, I read excerpts. I'll admit that it's a 135-page decision, so I haven't read the whole thing. But I read the excerpts of what Clarence Thomas said, and he is my least favorite Supreme Court justice of all of them. He is the worst.
Yeah.
However, intelligent people can read the Constitution and read what he says, because he lays out a ton of precedent as to why he made the decision he made. He's absolutely right. It is the correct decision. The liberals on the court this time were wrong.
Well, so the liberals were just citing the mass shootings.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't have anything to do with the Constitution.
Right.
Like, because there's a mass shooting, that doesn't curb my right to protect myself.
But that's my point, that it was political in the vote. And maybe Clarence Thomas said the right things, but the court was still voting politically. Well,
the court has become politicized, but I still think that, there is a justice there. My favorite justice is Neil Gorsuch. He's the only libertarian on the court. I really hyper focus on the First and the Fourth Amendment. Those two things are really important to me, but they're all important. All the Bill of Rights are important. And Neil Gorsuch is a real Fourth Amendment type person, which is the right to be free of unreasonable searches and seizures. But the decision itself, yes, it was 6-3. The conservatives voted one way and the liberals voted another way. You could look at it as purely political, but you've got to read the law and the text of how they ruled, and they were actually correct. They were 100% correct.
Even though it's Clarence Thomas.
Even though it's Clarence Thomas, who I despise. I can't stand him. His rulings. So do you know how the Supreme Court, do you know how proceeding at the Supreme Court works? Like the actual nuts and bolts of it?
I grew up very close to it.
So here's how it works. When you go into any appellate court, but it works this way at the Supreme Court as well. So you have the lawyer for the plaintiff and or the government, and you have the defendant. And the lawyer for the plaintiff starts and they make their presentation. I believe they limit it to 5 minutes. They make their presentation. And then there's a green light, and then they'll give you a yellow light when the 1 minute's left. And then when the red light comes on, the lawyer has to shut up. And then the other lawyer gets up and gives his presentation. And then there's a back and forth with the justices. The justices ask the lawyers questions and they go back and forth. And they discuss it. Clarence Thomas never gets involved in those discussions. So you don't even know where he's thinking, what he's thinking, where he's coming from. And he makes these weird, he doesn't get involved in those discussions. Very rarely does he speak up in that back and forth. Like, Justice Scalia, who's passed away, who I believe Brett Kavanaugh took his spot. He used to be very verbose in the back and forth with the attorneys, explaining, because as an appellate attorney, this is what I wanted to do in life. I wanted to be a Fourth Amendment, specifically Fourth Amendment appellate attorney, because appellate attorneys are a very specific thing. You deal with appeals only. You're not really dealing with the clients all that much. I'm not really that interested in dealing with clients. Wasn't interested in dealing with clients. I was more interested in being in the law library and getting down into the nuts and the bolts of the law.
It's not too late.
And arguing it. It's too late. And I'm not interested enough. I don't care enough. I have no stake. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay.
I'm carving out my bubble. That's all I can control. I don't care about any of the rest of it. I don't care about society. I don't care what happens to any of you. No offense. I don't care.
Our viewers just dropped by 5.
I don't care. They can be here or not. I don't care if they listen to this. Don't listen to it. I don't care. I don't care what happens. I don't care. I have no stake in it. I'm not attached to this world. I don't care. It doesn't matter. It's not 1,000 years after we're gone. 1,000 years after humans are extinct, you won't even know that we were here. Think about this. Humans, Homo sapiens, where we are right now, our current form, has only been 5,000 years. I mean, Homo erectus, like that goes back, Australopithecus, all that goes back a couple of 1.2 to 2 million years. But in our current form, 5 million years or 5,000 years. That's not long compared to 4.5 billion years, and the universe 13.8 billion years, and it's still expanding. We are meaningless. It's generous to say that we're a spark of energy in time. That's generous. We're not even that. And I'm more in this place than I've ever been. But the first time that I got this thought was at the Grand Canyon. I saw that at 19, I think maybe 20 years old. Because I was close and people were like, let's see the Grand Canyon one time. And at night, when you see it and you see the stars, because you can see the stars there, and you see that canyon, and you're like, yeah, my life is 80 to 100 years tops. You're looking at millions of light years away above your head and hundreds of millions of years of cutting that canyon. So what does your life really mean? Tell me what it really means. Nothing. It means nothing. So all you have to do, this is all you can do, is enjoy yourself. Make every day that you have on this earth count. That's it. Do not live your life to please other people. Do not live your life for any of these dumb reasons. Don't live your life for politics. Don't go to jail for Donald Trump. Don't spend 5 seconds in jail for a politician. Are you out of your mind? What are you, stupid? You're going to go attack police officers for Donald Trump? Henry Rollins had this joke that he said in his spoken word talking about the LA riots in 1992. They were like, you need to go stand in front of this Sam Goody record store and protect your neighborhood. He's like, yeah, I'm going to take a 2x4 over my head for Morrissey. I don't think so. Fuck Sam Goody. Like, I'm going to stand out here and fight with looters and rioters to save a corporation's profits? No. It's insane. Get your priorities straight. Everyone, or not. I don't care. Don't care. But don't pretend like this is some kind of healthy society that we live in because you go to your cubicle 5 days a week and you go to soccer practice on Saturday and you go to church on Sunday and you put your 10% in the plate. That makes you a good person. It doesn't. And it doesn't even matter if you're a good person or not. Holy shit, dude. So, with that, we will bid you adieu. I wanted to talk about this ruling and some other parts of society, and Mike Morse says sometimes I get indignant and preachy, and that's not even what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to proverbial. Boy, I'm be like Sal now.
Who cares?
Proverbially, proverbially. God, I can't even say. I can't even speak right. As a metaphor, I'm trying to take a 2x4 metaphorically and smack you in the head with it, just to let you know. Don't be self-important. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. You don't matter. You'll never matter. None of you. Me. All of us. Even the people that own this world. Think about J.P. Morgan, Andrew Carnegie, all these super rich people throughout history. You know where they are now? They're in the ground. What does it matter to them now? They spent their lives acquiring wealth and being captains of industry, and William Randolph Hearst and owning the newspapers, and all their narcissistic fever dreams came true. And what did it all matter the day that they chunked them into the clay? It didn't. And it doesn't now. Think about it. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, where are they right now? They're in the ground. And what does any of it matter to them? It doesn't. When you're in the ground, none of it's going to matter to you. People are like, oh, I want this, this, and this at my funeral. What do you care? You're dead. You are dead. Today might be your last. Some of you aren't even going to make it to 50. People are making fun of me because I'm 51 years old. Oh, you're old. Guess what? You might not even make it this far. Get off your high horse. That's the disease of being young. When I was 18, 19, I'm in the military wanting to go to the Middle East and fire weapons at people. And I'm wanting to go there and be in danger. Now I realize what a dumb idea that was. Because what does it matter? Shell Oil got rich. Halliburton got rich. Dick Cheney got rich. Yeah, all that happened. But what did it do for me? Not a damn thing. And what did it do for you? Nothing. Treasure every second you have on this earth. That's it. That's all you can do. So, thank you for being here and listening to my rant. And if you didn't like it,
fuck you.
Yeah, go get fucked. I don't care. And I don't care what happens to you. If you liked it, great. If you didn't like it, I have the same reaction. None of this matters one iota. Get it through your thick skulls. We have a sick society. The human race is ridiculously dumb. And the fact that we're sentient, I don't even know how that happened. Terrence McKenna says it's because of psilocybin, but we are just it's just not our country. It's our whole human race. It's just ridiculous. The hate, the violence, the anger, and all for what? You're an invisible sky man in the sky. That's who you're going to kill somebody for? For money. That's what you're going to hurt somebody for? To make yourself feel better, you're going to hurt somebody else? That's what that's your purpose in life. But one day when you're on your deathbed, if you get to be on your deathbed, some of you are not. Some of you are going to die suddenly from very various reasons. Go talk to the insurance adjusters that do life insurance. They'll tell you. They do the actuarial tables. But if you ever get to be on your deathbed, some of you are going to have a lot of regrets. And you ain't the Flash and you ain't Superman, so you can't turn back time. There's no time machine. There's no going back in time. The Earth keeps going around the sun until the sun burns out. And that's going to be a long time after you, your kids, their kids, their kids, their kids, and their kids are gone. If the human race even makes it that far. So, get jacked up like me on Javelia French roast and get on the air and get stiff. That's what's fun. All right. Hey, Tommy, thank you for everything. Fascinating discussion today. And
all these people in chat are here. Johnny G, Miami.
Love that guy. He's a biker, man. Bikers are the best. Who else?
Row 99.
He's a dick. He's a complete dick. Can't stand him.
Los Pollos Hermanos.
Love Los Pollos Hermanos. Although I'm drinking coffee, here's for you, Los Pollos Hermanos. Who else you got?
Sammy Speed.
I don't know who that is.
Iggy McGillicuddy is here.
I love Iggy. Iggy's my man right there. Fellow veteran. And Iggy's ripped, man. He's in good shape. I saw him at the Bubba Army party. And, you know, Iggy, we had this plaque made for beautiful Ferrari plaque made for Dr. Diaco, who saved a bunch of our lives. And Iggy had a plaque made for him. And it was a beautiful ceremony. So Iggy is a very caring, thankful person for somebody like Dr. Diaco Dr. Diaco's treated me for over 20 years and he's never been wrong. Once people are like, oh, he's a plastic surgeon. Yeah, he's a plastic surgeon because that's what pays a lot of money. But he's a medical genius first and foremost. Like every Marine's a rifleman, he's a medical genius, Dr. Dan Diaco. And he's a lawyer too. It's like, and he saved our lives. And Iggy showed him much love and appreciation for that. So Iggy's a good man. Navy Seabee. Those were the guys, you know, in the Marines, the Navy Seabees are the ones that build your place, your tents where you stay out in the desert. I was living straight on the sand until the Navy Seabees built me like a platform and a tent to live in.
That's
great.
Cool.
We love the Navy Seabees, man. Navy Seabees and Navy Corpsmen are Marines' best friends. We love you guys. You guys can keep the chaplains, though. You know, there's no chaplains in the Marine Corps. They're all Navy. So you can keep the chaplains. We'll take the CB, more CBs and more corpsmen, because the CBs and corpsmen stitch us up and fix us up, and the CBs build us our places to live and work. So when we're in the field. So great people there. Love Iggy, love Donkey Teeth, everybody. Thank you for being here. Tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, Katelyn and I, party show, and it won't be so serious. We'll blow off some steam. I will see you all.
Boy 4 says, gotta live life on your own terms, gotta be willing to crash and burn.
100% 80s Boy 4, 100%. And even if you crash and burn, you can pick yourself up and dust yourself off and continue to march. I don't know. It's gonna be a test. Katelyn's in here asking me if I'm going to stream MLB tonight. I might, but the first stream I do with MLB is just going to be a test. So if you're around, you're around. If you're not, you're not. Because I've got it hooked up to YouTube and Twitch, so we'll test both of those and see how that works. But I wanted to get a show on tonight. I got a lot on my mind. I got a lot more of this. I got a lot of something else on my mind. So we'll see you all tomorrow night, 7 o'clock, with Katelyn and I for a party show. It won't be so serious. We'll get in here and get cranked and have a good time and play some Lunch Money Lewis and all that stuff. Right on. See you all tomorrow.
Yeah, man.
That's the man, Brent Hatley. I love that dude.
This show is fucking trippy, man. It's fucking. You need some mushrooms and some acid and watch this show.